Welcome back, folks. Craig Bushon, live, Be First in Media, BeFirstInMedia.com, out at the 2012 Jason Isaac Barbecue at the Salt Lick. This has been a fantastic evening. You'll recognize the person to my left. I'm very excited about having him back on my program. It's his first time on our simulcasted Be First in Media. Welcome, Ted Cruz.
Craig, it's always great to be with you.
I sure appreciate you coming on tonight. You know, what an exciting crowd. Well,
people are energized. They are passionate to take our country back, and this is happening all over Texas. It's happening all over the country.
Well, I got to say, I was at an event the other day, another Republican event that had a lot of Tea Party feel to it. I mean, they're handing out constitutions.
Yep.
I mean, the Tea Party has really made a move pushing everybody to start talking about our rights, right? And I got to say real quick, I saw your dad the other day, and he spoke. What an amazing human being at the gala that was here in Central Texas. Wow, you must be very proud to have a dad like that.
Well, my dad has been my hero my whole life. I mean, he is passionate. He only speaks from the heart. And, you know, when you grew up, I mean, as a kid, he was imprisoned and tortured. He was beaten almost to death. And to flee Cuba and to come to Texas with nothing, seeking freedom, it makes you appreciate being the child of an immigrant who faced oppression and got away, just how precious liberty is, just how fragile it is, how easy it is to be taken away. And that is certainly why I'm doing this, but that's why everyone here tonight. We had over 400 people come out tonight on a Sunday night, and that's happening in every county in Texas.
And on a rainy Sunday. And, you know, that gives challenges to any event.
Sure.
And, you know, what you said is exactly spot on. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. My son was inside a 7-Eleven the other day, and he met a man behind the counter from Nigeria.
Yep.
Okay? And he won in a lottery the ability to come to the United States.
Yep.
Okay? Most people don't even realize that that goes on. That this guy, he said it was like winning the lottery. Mm-hmm. And he said, so many Americans don't realize how wonderful and how great this country is, and that to him, he wouldn't trade $5 million to go back to Nigeria and what he left. That's how much he believes in America. And he just got here.
Yep. In the history of the world, what we have in the United States is unique, it is miraculous, it is extraordinary, and it's precious. And that's what's being threatened right now. You know, I have to tell you, Craig, back in April of 2009, right when the Tea Party was starting, my dad actually was invited to speak at the first big Tea Party gathering in Dallas, April 15th, 20,000 people in downtown Dallas. And my father stood up and he talked about it. He said, when I was a young man, I saw a young and charismatic leader come to power. And he promised hope and change. And he promised to redistribute the wealth. And then my dad described the suffering and misery that Fidel Castro brought to Cuba as he murdered and pillaged and destroyed that nation. Now, after my dad's talk, I posted that on my Facebook page, and a left-leaning journalist wrote a long blog about it, saying, this is really extreme. To compare Barack Obama to Fidel Castro, that's over the top. And then a bunch of fairly left-leaning commentators began commenting on the blog.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. And I was sitting there, it was about 1:30 in the morning. I guess I had too much time on my hands. And I was reading through all these comments. And I did something I'd never done before. I signed up to make a comment myself. I did it with my own name. And I said, I've been reading everyone's comments about my father's speech, and y'all are really your hysterical comments. And I just want to point out one thing. If you look back at what my dad said, he never once mentioned the words Barack Obama. Yep. Now, what does it say about you that you hear what Fidel Castro did and you immediately think that must be Barack Obama?
Right. There are challenges that we face in this country because of the lack of information that the average person doesn't get. I look at this wonderful Jason Isaac third annual barbecue. Real grassroots, right? You talked about it on the stage this evening. Real grassroots. And when we're media, we're Be First in Media. But you know what? We're the only media here. And I can't help but think that that's on purpose. Mm-hmm. There's a paradigm shift we're in the middle of right now. It's in the political world. You beat the lieutenant governor. I was toying around with my friend Jim Carter with the Texas Insider, because when I used to do radio with him, I predicted right after you entered the race, right after I had the lieutenant governor on the show, that you were going to win. And everybody said I was crazy, Ted. Everybody. All my conservative friends. I'm a delegate for the state of Texas.
Yep.
You know, I go down on the House floor and the Senate floor, you know, during when they're in session. Everyone thought I was crazy. But here you are. It is a testimony to where we're going in this country. And I'll say this, the press, as you are going, and Donna Campbell, who's here,
Sure.
okay, a similar fight, but at a different level, okay? Jason Isaac, this young gun, I've called him since he's been in. Media has to go through the same thing. We need to make sure when you get there that what you do is being told to the people correctly, so things can't be spun in a way that make you look bad, that when you shouldn't be looking bad. You follow what I'm saying?
You know, I do, and I will tell you, I mean, if you look at this Senate primary here in Texas, the conventional wisdom that there was no way I could win this race, I think was completely right. There's no way I could do it. It was beyond my capacity. Where the conventional wisdom went wrong is it was entirely possible for the people to do
That's
this.
exactly right.
There was no way I could do it, but we won this race because of thousands and thousands and thousands of grassroots activists who poured their heart and soul and passion into this race. And this victory was a testament to the incredible potency of grassroots conservatives.
Well, there's an energy that happens every time you walk on the stage. Anytime anyone that has any substance about them, when they get up, there's an energy, and then you feed from the energy from the crowd also, right? It's just like in my world, I feed off a crowd whenever I have one, okay? And that is why it's so important to me and for us and what we're doing with Be First in Media is to make sure that the rest of the folks out there know that this happened. Right. Because it's so important for people in Omaha, Nebraska, and in the small towns in Iowa that they know they're not alone. There are people out doing stuff, and we're all in this together.
Well, and that is the incredible importance of talk radio and new media.
That's right.
And this endeavor combining both, because it gets around the self-appointed gatekeepers that decide what the people get to know and what they don't know. You know, I'll give you a great example of grassroots. At this gathering tonight, I was introduced to a gentleman who I did not know before, who I was told in the heat of the primary, he was watching and listening to all of the attack ads that were run against me. And he got so upset, he sat down and wrote a radio ad, called the radio station, and paid to run the ad. Now, our campaign didn't know that. We had nothing to do about it. I found out about it for the first time tonight, 2 or 3 months later. That sort of thing was happening organically over and over and over again. And if you're sitting at home and you hear from your college roommate or your next door neighbor or your business partner, and one person after the other says, this race matters, and let me tell you about this guy, there is nothing more powerful in all of politics than that one-on-one vouching and the credibility of those you know and love and trust.
Well, you know what's interesting? Paul Sadler, I'm sure you know his name, watched an interview, okay? Two things that really, it was out in West Texas, a local media, I don't know, it's a local NBC or CBS station. And he said, not this election, maybe not the next election, but the one after that, it'll be a Democrat state. And then he said that the Republicans must team up with the Democrats to beat back the misguidedness of the Tea Party. That's how I know we're winning in this new movement in this country. When we hear that kind of dialogue, having to team up with what would be their adversary to try to beat, what do they think, it's a third party? It's crazy.
Right. Well, and I think what he's doing there is repeating a lot of what the mainstream media says. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with reporters that say, well, gosh, you know, you conservatives are really radical, you're really extreme. And I just have to laugh. And to say, you know, it is only in this small little bubble, this alternative universe, that it is considered radical or extreme not to want to bankrupt our nation, not to want to destroy the future of our kids and grandkids. 80% of Americans, Republicans, but even Democrats, don't want, and I'm talking rank and file Democrats, not the elected leaders who've been responsible for this, don't want to leave our kids and grandkids with a crushing debt they can't escape. And that's the power of what's happening right now. This isn't top down. This is not the elites dictating it. It's coming from the people who are saying, live within your means, be responsible, follow common sense.
That's exactly right. And and that's really what your race is about. Really, you've already, I hate to say it this way, because you still have a race against Paul Sadler, and I understand that that has its challenges, and you need to stay focused. I get that. There's no shoe-ins. But I will tell you, and I can say this with having many, many people within the Conservative Party that I know that are friends of mine, your race particularly changed the tenor of the GOP. It changed that old school, hard-nosed, good old boy Republican Party that's still there. A piece of it is still there, and you fought against it. Threw a lot of money at it. Right. They threw a ton of money at it. But it was a paradigm shift moment because it didn't matter what they did. You won. And you won because of what you said, because of the people, because they paid attention. And that will go down in history for sure in Texas politics, and your name will be there to be the beginning of what I hope and what I pray is this next prosperous generation for this country.
Well, I appreciate that, Craig, and I'll tell you, I'm honored to be a part of this. I think the primary victory was really a testament to two things. Number one, that the grassroots matter, and number two, that ideas matter. And, one of the things we did that I hope to see other candidates doing more and more is we kept the campaign focused every day on ideas, on conservative principles, on getting back to the founding principles of our nation, individual liberty, fiscal responsibility, getting back to the Constitution.
That's right.
This race featured a whole lot of attack ads, really nasty ads going after my character. As I joked tonight, in the midst of the attacks, my wife turned to me and she said, "Goodness gracious, I didn't realize what a rotten guy you were." And I'll tell you, but there's actually, I think in hindsight, I hope maybe a lesson to be drawn, which is no matter how nasty the attacks got that were leveled in our direction, we never once responded in kind. We didn't reciprocate. We never once impugned my opponent's character, impugned his integrity. We never once attacked him personally. We didn't do that in the primary, and I'll tell you right now, we're not going to do it in the general either. We're going to keep the focus where it belongs, on ideas, on issues, on record, on policy, on how we turn this country around, because I think that's what voters want and deserve.
That's exactly right. Ted Cruz, thank you so much for coming on. I got a gift for you. I got to give it to you. You're the first person here. Donna's going to go. No, Jason, I'm sorry, has one. But this I want to give to you. And know that you're not alone. There are those of us in the media that are building the same way you want to build this new political climate. We're going to build a new media climate because there's multiple fronts to fight on. And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for what you're doing every day. I'm proud to be a part of it. And I'd urge everyone listening, come to tedcruz.org, sign up, join us, and help us spread the message. It's one person at a time, speaking to your friends and neighbors and family and spreading the message. We can take our country back, and together that's exactly what we're going to do.
There it is, folks. Ted Cruz, Senate candidate for the great state of Texas, the most powerful legislative seat in this state, and really, I think, one of the most powerful seats in this whole great country of ours. Again, Ted Cruz, thank you so much. You have a blessed night.
Always a pleasure. You
Absolutely. Too. Well, there you have it, folks. The bottom line is this. There are people out there battling for you. There are people in very powerful positions that, are trying to keep their position of power that have helped get us in this situation, the $16 trillion in debt. I see Donna Campbell over there. I got to wave her over. Well, it's just live stuff here. So I got to get you when I can get you. Come here. I got to get a hug.
Oh, hey. How are you, Craig? It's good to see you.
Oh, it's so great to see you. I am so glad that I was able to run into you. And welcome. You'll see our new genre here, Be First in Media, an extension of my AM and FM programming. We are pushing back on the left, pushing back on the George Soros media empires.
We need it.
To get the facts out, because same thing I was just saying to Ted Cruz, that there was nobody here. This is all happening in a vacuum. There were 400 citizens here, but there was no media here. And that's a problem because we want to build a tremendous movement, but that takes energy.
Yes.
But let's talk about you. Donna Campbell, okay. Tell us where you're at in your race. I mean, tell us, I think personally, as you know, I'm a huge fan of yours, but Reader's Digest, tell the folks who you are and what's going on.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, I'm a citizen, if you will. Got tired of politics as usual, the status quo government. Decided to run for the Texas Senate.
That's right.
I beat a 20-year Senate Republican, Texas Senator.
District 25?
District 25. Yep. After he'd been there for almost 20 years. Unseated him at a 66 to 33, if you will.
Amazing.
It was great.
Really amazing. I mean, but go ahead.
It surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it truly, the resounding win was because of people who were just tired of status quo government. We have been kicking the proverbial can down the road. People were tired of that. So it was a God thing, it was a people thing, it's a passion thing. People who love Texas, they got out to vote.
That's right. Well, I was telling Ted Cruz that there's so many similarities between his race and yours. You know? So many similarities because you weren't supposed to win.
Right.
He wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
But here we are today. November, 51 days is not that far from now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But there is something happening in this country, let alone the state of Texas, that I'm excited about. And there's a lot of people. There's 400 people here. There's 4,000 people, within a mile from here. And I think there's 4 million, 40 million that think the way we do, that are waiting for a politician like yourself to get into office. But some of the people watching right now go, well, wait a minute. This is my first time to vote. I've heard of Donna Campbell. Tell the folks the key big issues that you're going to be addressing once you win.
Our message resonated across the district. And it all surrounds or encompasses a strong economy, a smaller government. We've got to create jobs. So when you look at all that, the government has grown so much, infringes on our rights. They tell us more about what we can't do than what we can. So my goal is trying to downsize government, make it more efficient, if you can use efficient and government in the same sentence, but make them more efficient.
Maybe soon. Maybe soon
yes,
we will.
With me there.
Okay.
Yes. We will. If I can help government get out of the way of businesses, we can then have more, a stronger economy. Because when we get government out of the way, businesses can grow, investors can invest, families will be able to keep more of their own money, be more prosperous, and we will have a healthier economy. So that's one of the big things. Downsizing government, strengthening our economy, creating jobs. Anything we can do to repeal Obamacare, or at least stop the mandates that are coming down from our state.
Well, what scares me is, and you're a physician, okay? You're an emergency room doctor. You've traveled the world. You've done delivered health care to people in third world countries.
Yes.
Okay. But I've noticed with all this clamoring going on and all this stuff going on, obviously internationally,
yes,
bad stuff, poor leadership in D.C., but Obamacare is kind of getting put on the back burner, and I think in some people's minds. And the long-term effect of Obamacare is unbelievably horrible. So we need to keep that in the forefront also.
Yes.
But tell the folks who may not know, they've heard that it's bad, but they don't know really why. Give a perspective as a doctor.
The Obamacare is like a one-size-fits-all, but it's not really all about cost of health care, access, or quality. And it's going to affect all of us. It's going to cost a lot more. There are many taxes embedded in this Obamacare. It's enforced by the IRS. I mean that in itself is a,
what
that's
kind of
a big
sales pitch is that, too?
Exactly.
How can anybody want that? But go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Access, they will have to, people will just access the health care that may or may not need it, use it for even less serious things, if you will. We know that our healthcare system will be bombarded. So we're going to overburden the system. The demand's going to be great. We're not going to have the supply. We're going to see the broadening of scope of practice of providers. that can affect the quality of care. Access, it's going to take up, whenever you burden the process, and everything from paperwork to more folks in emergency rooms and in the clinics that don't necessarily need to be there. But they can access it. People come into the emergency room, for instance, with a rash that they've had for 2 months without taking time going to a doctor in the day. They're a clinic,
Because and why that's a problem is that the operating costs of an emergency room, just so the folks understand, the emergency room operates different than going to your regular doctor. It's much more expensive to operate than having a private practice, having a physician that you go to as a general practitioner or whatever.
It is. It's a lot more expensive. Tests are expensive. We're held to a different standard. Because of frivolous lawsuits out there, we're still held to a different standard. So things have to be done on folks that come in through an ER more than they have to be in a clinic. So it's just the cost is going to be so much more. And physicians, there's some physician dropout. There's just not. There are so many things about Obamacare.
Sure. Well, it's a laundry list.
There is a laundry list, and it's socialized medicine, and people will become a number. Really.
Right.
And government has access to our healthcare records.
A quick story.
So many things.
A friend of mine her dad is, I think he has Lou Gehrig's, and he's in his lower 60s, and he's on government. I think it's Medicare
Disability.
Or Medicaid. Can't remember. I apologize.
Probably both.
Already, he's been cut off.
Yes.
Because of Obamacare coming and the money, the hundreds of billions of dollars taken out of the system already, to help pay for the future of this program. He actually doesn't get the physical therapy that he needs, that he used to get before this administration enacted Obamacare. It's already happening in real time.
And there are other stories out there, anything from dialysis to, it's just amazing. The changes that people are gearing up for that are already coming down, part of it's already been instituted, the paperwork that, it's just, it's hard to get out from under the paperwork and everything that the that comes with all this, that the government is mandating. And it's going to affect our quality of care.
Well,
so we've got to stand against that at the state level, and stand against, part of my messaging is also to stand against the egregious government that's trying to stomp on our sovereignty.
Well, that's I could do an entire show. I have done entire shows on, you're handing out here, the Heritage Foundation, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States. The number one thing that this government's supposed to do over everything is protect the sovereignty of this nation.
Yes.
And that's not happening.
No.
And it's not just this administration. It has happened for a long, long time. Even people within the Republican Party have done a very poor job of securing our border and in keeping us sovereign. So that's why a new Republican leadership is needed, not an old style GOP.
I'll tell you, with my win and some others, we actually, Craig, are going to make Texas history in the fact that we're going to have the most conservative Senate in Texas history. And I really am confident that we're going to be able to look at the problems that we have: water, transportation, economy, our roads.
Toll roads.
We cannot afford, definitely, to kick the can down the proverbial broken road, right? So I'm confident that we'll be able to work on some of those things and
good.
Bring them in
I'm
under
very
a budget,
excited.
I hope.
I'm so glad I ran into you today.
Oh, yes, it was great to see you. And I just...
I'm going to give you a shirt.
Blessings
I'm going
on
to give you one.
this.
This is probably going to be the
media.
size for your husband, but unless you just have it for an overlarge shirt, I'm going to send you
Thank
you're
you.
small.
Well, I am a small,
You
but
are
my
small.
husband loves this, and
I'm going to get you.
thank you so much.
And, the bottom line is this, we are all in this together. As you, I believe, will win. And as you go and change and fight your revolution, if you will, within not only local politics, national politics, we're doing the same thing with Be First in Media. We're going to change the face of media too. We're going to be expanding. Imagine not just us being here, but 50 BFIMs, Be First in Medias, at events like this.
This is going to be great.
These type of events mean something. The 400 people that were here it does not deserve to happen in a vacuum. There are people in Omaha, there are people in California, there are people in Iowa that could feel alone sometimes in their fight because the media doesn't show up and it doesn't broadcast this energy.
I think the only thing that's out there really, well, I mean, except for a very few, it's just Fox at the national level.
Right,
so
that's it.
This is such a needed counter to the lamestream media, if
That's
you will.
right. Well, that's
and
why
this
you're
is our counter. So
that's
this
exactly
is
right.
awesome.
Thank you so much, and that's why
Thank
we
you.
picked the logo we did. And
I love it.
You know, it's that fight, but in the end, here's what I know: we're going to be blessed when you get in.
Thank you.
And we're here for you. You always know you're welcome on the program.
Thank you.
Please
You've
tell
been
all
very
your friends.
supportive.
Oh, we
very
absolutely.
supportive. So I support your efforts here,
Thank
and
you.
if anything I can ever do, let me know. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Tell everybody to get out to vote. I know when it comes time, you're going to be out there just getting folks out there to
Get the
to
folks
vote.
your
Get 'em out there.
website. Tell
Yes.
folks how to get a hold of you.
Oh, it's
People wanna donate to
DonnaCampbell.com.
you.
DonnaCampbell.com. And visit us on Facebook and Twitter, Facebook. Our website's got all that
Websites are almost
information.
becoming obsolete in comparison to Facebook.
Facebook. I know. It's great.
Unbelievable.
And
Well-
you know what? Let me just real
Sure,
briefly.
absolutely. Go ahead.
Have you seen the movie The Last Ounce of Courage?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. It talks about freedom and really puts a man, well, I don't want to give it away, but
Make that
it's-
note, Gabe, of that. The
You-
last ounce of courage.
And it's a very limited theaters right
Sure.
now, but try to see The Last Ounce of Courage because that's going to I'd like you to talk about that on your show.
Sure, absolutely.
And all of us freedom-loving people who respect our military so much for what they do, it highlights that. And it's a tearjerker. It's a tearjerker. Even some men cry, but it's worth it.
Well, I'll tell you this. We are very close to the military. The military is something that we need to look out after because they're looking after us. And thank you so much, Donna Campbell, for
Thank
coming on
you.
tonight.
And you actually have a representative
Oh,
of the
yes.
House Reps, Bryan Hughes. Have you met him?
I have not.
Let me introduce
Please
you to
do
Bryan
that.
Hughes.
We could do it right on the air.
Bryan, I want to introduce you to Craig Bushon.
Thank you.
Come on over. Welcome.
And this is Representative Bryan Hughes.
Craig Bushon.
Bryan Hughes, how are you, Craig?
I'm doing excellent. Welcome to Be First in Media. My extension of my AM and FM broadcasting I did for years, and now we are launching out this new revolution, a conservative
Yes.
online
Yes.
revolution for not just radio, but for TV, HD video broadcasting, to take the fight back. That's why our logo is what it is, with the fist. It kind of looks old Soviet Union. It kind of looks, all hard left, that revolution, the 99%ers. Well, you know what? The best way I know to fight fire is with fire.
Amen.
Or a big bucket of water. I don't know. It's one or the other. But it's wonderful to meet you. And but tell the folks, there's a lot of people who pay attention to this show that are actually not Republicans. They're actually independents. A lot of Ron Paulers, and even many Democrats who just they know what's going on in their life isn't right. But they come from a family of Democrats.
You bet.
Their mom, their grandpa, everyone around them, and they just don't know what to do.
You bet.
So
You bet.
part of what we're doing is bringing people on, tell the folks who you are, tell them, what you've been up to, and how they can get a hold of you, and why, if they are a Democrat out there or they're undecided, why the conservative Republican Party is the place they can be.
Craig, thanks for that. And I appreciate what you're doing. I know you have a reputation. We haven't formally met before, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I grew up in East Texas, Northeast Texas. That's where my district is. And
Yeah, my wife's family's Longview and all that. Yeah.
There you go. I represent part of Longview.
There you
I'm
go.
proud to. That area of the state is very conservative. Historically, we've tended to identify with the Democratic Party. That's a historic
Well,
understatement.
160 years of Democrat rulership over Texas, one
You
time.
bet. You
So
bet.
That's
You
not
bet.
that's a long time.
You bet it is. And so when I was elected in 2002, we replaced a 12-year incumbent Democrat, and I'm very thankful folks worked hard and they prayed, they gave us money, they knocked doors, and we saw a victory in 2002 and been in the House ever since that time. But you're talking about folks who are frustrated. Things aren't going right. They know things aren't going the direction they're supposed to be going. And I remember hearing years ago, before I was involved in politics, when I was in college, someone said, if the Republicans, well, let me back up, talking about Republicans versus Democrats, and this is really in the context of Washington, but what they said was, if the Democrats introduced a bill to burn down the Capitol, the Republicans would have an amendment to phase it in over 3 years, right? We're very thankful for some great Republican members of the Congress and the legislature.
You're right.
But historically, we've seen that folks are frustrated because the government seems to be it's working against us. It's not for us. I mean, where's my bailout? Right? They're worried about so many things that are happening. And so I understand people's frustrations. We appreciate that the government has a very limited role. And if we go back to the Constitution,
I got one right here. Wait a second.
There you go.
Yeah, look at that.
I got
Wow.
mine too, man.
I tease Jason because hey, it feels like a Tea Party event.
It does.
I mean, because the fact is, the wave that's happening. Yeah, Tea Party had a lot to do with it. There's no doubt about it. But really, it's this awakening that we hear a lot of people talk about. But the truth is, the fact is, there was 400 people here tonight.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
400 people who showed up on purpose in rainy weather.
Yes.
Because they know that they need to do something. And showing up is one of the biggest things people can do, and that's why I've been working very hard to get people to vote and know why they need to vote.
Amen.
And especially
Amen.
our 18 to 29-year-old, our Y generation.
Craig, you're so right. In America, the government still works for the people. It's about the only place left where that's true, right? But it still does, man. And if you think about the folks who want to grow the government, want the government to do more and more things, want to tax more and spend more to do more, those folks tend to be engaged. Government is what they do. But conservative-minded folks tend to be raising their families, running their businesses, involved in church and that sort of thing. Not that other folks aren't, but political stuff is down a few steps for us. Yeah. And that's why the trend is for government to grow. So you're right, man. If people will show up. My friend Dan Flynn, state rep in East Texas, says politics. You know Dan.
Absolutely.
Said, politics is a game that's won by those who show up. And you're exactly right. Aren't you encouraged to see people doing this like we've seen tonight? And all around the country. Things may be changing.
It's what a lot of people have to understand. And all the people out there, all of you too, okay? Jim Cardle, friend of mine.
Yes.
Okay, Texas Insider. He's been on my show many a times. And when Ted Cruz got in the race a year and a half ago, I was the only conservative, really, that stood up and said, he's going to win. Listen, and I've had the lieutenant governor on my show. I've had lots of people on my show. Many, many, many old school GOP, some have been around for 20, 30, 40 years.
Right. Thought
I was crazy. Because traditionally, it would never happen.
No way.
And a lot of things had to align up correctly. Through the grace of God, I always say. The lawsuit of redistricting and all the things going here and there, stretching out races.
Right.
Okay. That is a thing that people need to understand, that Ted Cruz was able to stay in the hunt because that door of opportunity of communication that's normally very short, this what I call a perception of giving a free market to have people challenge, the incumbent,
right.
Especially the old school. And I'm sorry for this long dissertation, but the fact is that because that happened, it kept the door open that is never open. It makes people feel like there's someone that's going to run against them, but there's never enough opportunity to have the long enough conversation. And now, for the first time, it really happened, and it ended up being the biggest upset in Texas state politics, with the most money ever spent to win the most powerful legislative seat in the state of Texas. And the old school money lost. That's a paradigm shift.
It really is, Craig. And Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst is a great guy.
He is. He's a nice man.
Great conservative record. He'll continue to be a strong lieutenant governor. That race, as you said, it was a huge upset, and it really became a symbol. Especially, it seems like in the runoff after the Republican primary, it just became a symbol of shaking things up and changing the status quo and threatening the establishment. And many people were so energized by that, and it really showed.
Yeah. Well, bottom line is this. We need strong conservatives who are not afraid to challenge the people out there changing the definition of conservative.
That's right.
Okay. Conservative, Webster's dictionary needs to stay or get involved, I think, in a lot of the new conversations. And but tell the folks how they can follow you, how they can get a hold of you. I mean, a lot of people who watch this show have not been engaged in politics. It's their first time ever. Some of them, because of the advent of the internet, there could be. And I have a lot of family in your area. Okay, so how do they get a hold of you? How do they follow what you're doing? How do they pay attention to you specifically?
Oh, thanks for asking, Craig. Of course, my website is bryanhughes.com, BryanHughes. If you spell Bryan Hughes with an I, you'll get a jazz guitarist out in California. Nice guy. I'm
Probably
sure, but
very
Bryan
good.
Hughes. Of course, we're on Facebook. And Craig, we're also running for Speaker of the House. And so you can go to HughesForSpeaker.com. Of course, we're on Twitter. I mentioned Facebook. And
well, that's a race in it. Wow, I wish I had more time. We're going to have you back on the show.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to have my people call your people, okay?
Thanks.
And because the bottom line is that's a whole other Pandora's box
It is.
with the speaker situation. Strauss and everything that happened there and the pushback, that big Tea Party move there.
Yes.
Yes. So, but here's the good news. We're having a dialogue. People are showing up. That sleeping giant, if you will, is awakening.
That's right.
And these are not just cliches.
That's right.
You know, the Japanese learned, and so did the Germans, not too long ago. When you wake this sleeping giant, make no mistake that you will deal with it.
Amen.
And that's what's happening here in this country. And I
Amen.
thank you so much for coming on. It's wonderful to meet you.
These are exciting times. Thanks for what you're doing. You know, I love my country. I'm not giving up. I don't think God's done with America. I think
No.
our best days can be
We're
ahead.
just beginning.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Great
Bless
to
you.
see you. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, folks. See, you think you're alone. You're not alone. There are lots of people out there. Oh, take that. I'm going to give you that right there. That's a
Hey,
special
thanks,
gift.
man.
You know, it'd be great. You put it on and take a picture and put it on Facebook.
I will proudly do that. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You know, tell all your friends is what I say. It's all about, that's the social side of social media. That's the power of what we have within Be First in Media. I'm very excited about ending the show on that note because I think Jason, I don't know where Jason is. I had him on earlier. I was going to try to get him on again. But if I can get him on, look for his post. You can see it up online. This is Craig Bushon, again from the 2012 Jason Isaac Annual Barbecue at the Salt Lick Pavilion. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon.